The second round of dialogues between the Venezuelan government and opposition sectors continue in Mexico. Guinea's coup leaders announced the reopening of air borders. And in Pakistan, at least 3 paramilitary dead and many wounded after a suicide bomb attack. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your host, Gladys Quesada, and now we begin with the news. The second round of dialogues between the Venezuelan government and the opposition sectors continues in Mexico. The dialogues will emphasize on economic issues, which both parties have recognized as a priority. The first declarations ratified that the delegations have the determination to support the process and reach agreements in favor of the interests of the people of Venezuela. This second round, which will last until Monday, has the mediation of the Norwegian government and a delegation of observers from Russia, Netherlands, Bolivia, and Turkey. The head of the Venezuelan government delegation, Jorge Rodriguez, has offered brief remarks following the meeting.
It is a cordial meeting which implies a positive element. The work is very rigorous. It is an order that all the economic guarantees that have been blocked to the people of Venezuela will be reincorporated. This is an excellent opportunity for our people to recover the right to economic freedom, the right to maintain the constitutional leader of the country.
Meanwhile, the chief negotiator of the opposition delegation, Gerardo Blyde, has referred to the complexity of the process.
We are beginning a hard and complex process that requires us hours and hours of work. But this delegation is committed to listening to all the Venezuelans who want to make contributions, and we will work hard to be able to produce early agreements, which are part of our agenda. We are beginning a hard and complex process that the accompanying countries have already been set out in the Memorandum of Understanding. These are Russia and the Netherlands as companions of the process. The group of friendly countries that are in the Memorandum of Understanding are still in the process of finalizing their constitution, and it is in the hands of the Norwegian mediation, the Norwegian facilitation, to finally present this group to the public.
During an interview, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros said that the commission headed by Jorge Rodriguez has delivered 2 important documents to defend the sovereignty of Venezuela.
The first document is the immediate lifting of all the financial oil economic trade sanctions against Venezuela and the immediate return of all bank assets and gold to Venezuela. It is a legal document and also supported by a set of letters signed by a business association asking the return of these resources to the country. And secondly, we have submitted a private document so that the meeting of Mexico issued a statement in defense of Venezuela's rights over La Guyana Esequiba.
President Maduro also emphasized that the opposition, by signing a memorandum of understanding, recognizes the legitimacy of the government of Venezuela.
This memorandum of understanding is signed by the legitimate Bolivarian government of Venezuela through the representative Dr. Jorge Rodriguez, who is president of National Parliament, and also signed by Gerardo Blay, who represents the so-called white opposition. There's well established that's the government recognized by the opposition, and that's the opposition recognized by the government. We recognize each other. They themselves sign a document to end the fantasy of the interim government. They are recognizing the legitimate government of Venezuela.
President Maduro also recalled the numerous calls for dialogue made by his government, and that in this opportunity the delegations are going to have the greatest willingness in order to reach agreements with the opposition.
We have already attended other meetings, always with good intentions and willingness. Meanwhile, the opposition tried to sabotage the meetings. The 9 members of the opposition assisting the second round of dialogue, political differences, electoral differences, a lot of hatred, envy, and pity between their own members. Sometimes they come in a good mood and others don't, and we don't know how to deal with them. What I can say to my country, Venezuela, and the whole world is that we are going to have the greatest patience in order to achieve strategic objectives.
And now we address other topics. The death toll after extensive flooding in the northeast of the United States caused by Hurricane Ida has risen to at least 49. The states of New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Maryland, and Pennsylvania saw tornadoes, record rain, and flooding. President Joe Biden on Thursday issued emergency declarations in New York and New Jersey, allowing for federal aid. The toll was highest in New Jersey, where 25 people died in heavy rains late Wednesday and early Thursday, while 6 more are missing. In Mexico, more than 560 homes have been affected by heavy flooding in the municipality of San Pedro Tlaquepaque after Friday's storm. According to municipal authorities, more than 500 homes have been affected in 8 neighborhoods in Tlaquepaque. However, they warn that this represents barely 30% of the damage count so far. The government has set up some shelters to attend to the people who cannot return to their homes. The director of the Civil Protection and Firefighters informs that the evaluation of damages and analysis of needs are being maintained in order to fund the restoration of the affected streets and houses.
Here, the water came up to about 80 centimeters, but there on that side, it's about 2 meters. Some got into our house, but not a lot, because we managed to put some sandbags out, but things were really bad.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Members of Guinea's military announced on Monday the reopening of air borders after they staged a coup d'etat. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya said President Alpha Conde was in custody following hours of gunfire in the capital Conakry and warnings for people to stay indoors. On Sunday, the military has seized control of Guinea, dissolved its government, and sealed the borders. Doumbouya said the trampling of the rights of citizens and the disrespect for democracy principles were the coup motivations.
We have dissolved the constitution. We will dissolve the institutions. Our government is dissolved. We will close the land borders for another week, and then we will see what to do with the air borders, with all our comrades. We will find a solution to get out of this mess. We will engage in a national consultation to open an inclusive and peaceful transition. No one should die for nothing. Guineans should no longer die for politics, because we have put politics ahead of ourselves and forgotten who we are.
And regarding this topic, our collaborator Oscar Epelde brings us the latest information about the situation in Guinea.
Good morning. After the artillery bangs that have been heard since this morning in Conakry, the commander of the Special Forces of the Army announced the dissolution of the constitution and the government, also the closure of land borders, and showed pictures of President Conde arrested by his soldiers. Lieutenant Colonel Doumbouya seems to want to quickly confirm the coup d'etat and prevent further fighting. In his message read to the camera, surrounded by red berets, armed and wearing special sophisticated uniforms, he pretended to identify himself with the Republic and justified the coup d'etat in the abuses, poverty and corruption of Alpha Conde's government. Last year, Alpha Conde's government's third consecutive presidential mandate had been proclaimed after elections questioned by the opposition. There are still many questions and unknowns, while the African Union still has not yet pronounced itself.
In other news, China continues to lead the efforts to ensure COVID-19 vaccines for all nations. The Chinese Foreign Ministry explains that the vaccines produced by the Sinopharm and Sinovac companies are scheduled to be delivered by the end of October and will be distributed in developing countries, especially in Asia and Africa. And now we continue. 12 patients from the University Hospital of Guadeloupe in Pointe-à-Pitre are being evacuated to mainland France to help take the pressure off the hospitals struggling with the weight of COVID-19 cases. Although the number of patients admitted to the emergency unit of the Pointe-à-Pitre University Hospital is decreasing, the hospital's intensive care units are still saturated with 46 patients. In total, 73 COVID-19 patients are in intensive care throughout the archipelago. Since the start of the fourth wave, 52 medical evacuations have been carried out in order to relieve the different services, according to the Regional Health Agency.
I feel relieved that my mother can leave. She's going to be able to have real care. She's going to be able to have a chance to live, because nothing is safe here. Unfortunately, nothing is safe. They do everything they can, but nothing is certain.
Today, we are doing 2 medical evacuations per island, from the West Indies, Martinique and Guadeloupe. So that's 24 patients who are evacuated each week. That is 20% of the island's capacity. So it's a huge extraction margin. We will continue for as long as it takes and as long as the island is still saturated. The island is still saturated in terms of ICU places. It's a device that is already planned for next week, but if it needs to continue, depending on the needs, we will continue.
For the 8th consecutive weekend, thousands have rallied in Paris to protest against President Emmanuel Macron's COVID-19 health pass. Demonstrators gather at the Eiffel Tower in Paris at the call of the right-wing politician Florian Philippot. Under the system of health pass, introduced progressively since mid-July, anyone wishing to enter a restaurant, theater, cinema, long-distance train or a shopping center must show proof of vaccination or a negative test.
Absolutely. If we have to resist by not going to restaurants anymore, by not going out anymore until the health pass is abolished, yes, I will, absolutely. I am free. I respect those who get vaccinated, but to impose it in this way, I don't agree.
We have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. A suicide bomber detonated his explosives in Pakistan, killing at least 3 paramilitary troops and wounding 15 others. According to authorities, the attacker had walked towards the checkpoint controlled by the paramilitary Frontier Corps on the capital of Balochistan province. Police said body parts were found at a distance from the security post after the bombing. Some of the wounded were in critical condition and the death toll could rise, police said. Banned militant group Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, also known as the Pakistani Taliban, claimed responsibility for the morning attack. And protesters have rallied in front of the presidential palace in Kabul to demand that the new Taliban leadership respect women's rights. A document was distributed calling for Afghan women to be granted full rights to education and participation in the country's social and political fields. The Taliban has promised a more inclusive government than during its last rule between 1996 and 2001, but many remain skeptical.
Existe mucha especulación sobre la confección del gabinete, si bien un alto cargo indicó esta semana que difícilmente incluirá mujeres.
A delegation from the government of Lebanon arrived in Syria on Saturday to agree on the details of an agreement for the import of electric power. The Lebanese ministerial delegation is the first to arrive in Syrian territory since the beginning of the war in the country 10 years ago. The meeting is aimed at finalizing the conditions for the import of electric energy from Jordan and natural gas from Egypt.
The two sides discussed the tough conditions that both countries face, especially when it comes to issues of electricity and gas. The Lebanese side asked if it was possible for Syria to help Lebanon by bringing Egyptian natural gas and Jordanian electricity through Syrian territory. The Syrian side welcomed this request and reassured Lebanon of the readiness of Syria to fulfill it. The two sides agreed to continue looking into the technical details.
International experts praised China for sharing technological achievements with countries along the Belt and Road, saying that improvements in digital trade services will boost the development of many economic sectors. The remarks follow President Xi Jinping's speech at the Global Trade in Services Summit of the 2021 China International Fair for Trade in Services. In his speech, Xi said China will create more possibilities for cooperation by scaling up support for the growth of services sectors in Belt and Road partner countries and also by sharing China's technological achievements with the rest of the world.
These technologies can be used to really improve the way we operate today. I think that China is going to be playing a very, very significant role in this respect. And this is going to impact on travel, it's going to impact on tourism, it's going to impact on manufacturing, it's going to impact even on exploration, whether it is mineral exploration in the ground or space exploration, because these technologies are technologies that have the capacity to be able to give us information and data that the eye cannot see, but that technology can uncover. How these technologies.
And the football match between Argentina and Brazil has been suspended after Brazilian health officials invaded the pitch to detain 4 Argentine players for allegedly lying to get into the country. The two South American heavyweights were set to meet for the first time during the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign on Sunday in Sao Paulo, but officials from Brazil's health ministry interrupted the match to demand the 4 Argentine players, Emiliano Martinez, Giovanni Lo Celso and Cristian Romero, who traveled from the United Kingdom, are deported for being in violation of the country's health regulations. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.